Chapter 2. Alexstrasza's heartstrings pulled taut, making it difficult to breathe. As Veranoth walked away, Alexstrasza nearly cried out, "Can you not stay and listen just for a moment more?" The Lifebinder held her tongue. She would not beg, especially when Veranoth refused to see reason. Of all the dragons in Azeroth, Alexstrasza thought Veranoth would understand why the Aspects chose order over their primal natures. She and Viranath had ever been of one heart, one mind. Order magic made it easier to protect innocent lives, a goal that Alexstrasza and Viranath shared. How many dragon clutches had she helped Viranath save from Galakron's hunger? Had she not fought with wing and talon in defense of Viranath's own brood, in defense of Viranath herself? Viranath had always been headstrong. The same stubbornness that made her slow to accept change also had made her a keen survivalist. Still, she had nothing to fear from order magic. Had she but stayed in Valdrakken, Alexstrasza would have shown her the wonders of its transformative powers, how these could be wielded as tools to achieve their shared desires. Instead, Viranoth chose to close herself to Alexstrasza, to the aspects, and to the future of dragonkind. However, the Lifebinder knew Viranoth better than any other. Though her heart moved like a glacier, it would melt in time. When Viranoth disappeared, Alexstrasza sighed and turned back to her duties. She could not spend long wallowing in self-pity. The other four aspects awaited her in the seat's towering eyrie. The seat of the aspects was one of Alexstrasza's favorite places in Valdrakken. She teleported to the top in a flash of light. The tower soared high over the city, affording her an all-encompassing view of the Broodlands. On a clear day, she could see everything from the volcanic ridges of the Waking Shore to the rolling hills of the Emerald Plains. When the winds blew from the south, Alexstrasza could even smell the woody, earthen scents of the ancient redwood trees in the azure span. Today, dragons filled the skies over the city, celebrating the Red Flight's newly instated Oathstone. They dipped, danced, and dived through the air, basking in the magic it had bestowed upon them. Alexstrasza wished her heart could know such peace, but Viranoth's words left her unsettled, particularly in the wake of Tyr's request. The dragonflights must grow more quickly, Alexstrasza, Tyr had said. Take primal dragon eggs from the wild and infuse them with order magic. Your flights must be prepared to defend Azeroth when the time comes. Alexstrasza had balked at the idea, especially because it hadn't been phrased as a request. Inside the upper chamber, Malagos lounged before his dragonflight's banner, tapping his blue-tinted talons on the floor and exuding an aura of boredom. Ysera sat on Alexstrasza's left, her emerald tail tucked around her toes. Alexstrasza's sister regarded her with kindness and perhaps a little sympathy. They had all seen Viranoth's departure, no doubt. Neltharion stood to Alexstrasza's right, his face unreadable, his eyes closed, thinking as always. Norsdormu turned his head as Alexstrasza strode back into the seat. Bronze sands danced around his wings, ever moving. Each aspect stood before a banner representing their flight, and all were flanked by various major domos and guards. "So," Neltharion said as Alexstrasza took her place before the red banner, "I take it Viranoth did not appreciate today's ceremony." "She did not," Alexstrasza said. "But we have more pressing concerns at present. I would like to discuss Tyr's latest admonition with this council. Majordomos, guards, leave us. I wish to speak to my fellow aspects alone." The majordomos bowed their heads to the Lifebinder and exited the seat, taking to the air and cruising around the tower out of earshot. One by one the Draken had filed out, back to the lower chamber. When they were alone, Alexstrasza returned to her business. "Tyr has asked us to take primal dragon eggs from the wilds and infuse them with order magic, thus expanding our flights at a faster rate. I will not lie, the request is—" "You mean the command," Malagos said, interjecting. The blue aspect rolled a bit of arcane fire through his talons, looking to the Lifebinder. "He did not give us a choice." "We always have a choice," Alexstrasza said. "We may choose to follow his admonition, or risk his displeasure and refuse. What say you all?" Neltharion cocked his head, the light sliding over his oil-dark scales. "You have ever been adamant that order magic should be an individual choice, Alexstrasza. Why would you consider infusing eggs without their bloodline's permission, or their own?" Alexstrasza sensed no malice from the black aspect, nor defiance. Neltharion was always the first to question Alexstrasza. He liked to prompt discussion and examine issues from multiple angles. On occasion, he could be rather tactless about it, but his question generated the desired result. "You speak true, Neltharion, but we know little of the threats to our world, nor the dark forces that Titans themselves shield us from knowing," Alexstrasza responded. "We have been entrusted with safeguarding the lives of all dragonkind, of all Azeroth. If infusing more eggs will improve our chances against future threats, perhaps we should consider it. You do not seem convinced, my queen. Malagos swirled his talons in the air, and arcane flames twirled from his talons like ribbons. Though I agree with Tyr. If we want the dragonflights to survive, it may be in our best interest to bolster our numbers. The flights are thriving, are they not? Alexstrasza said. Yes, for now. The blue aspect looked up, dousing the fire with a snap of his talons. He rose to his feet. But opposition rises on swift wings. Your own cousin speaks against you. Farak? Alexstrasza replied with a scoff. Farak may be a firebrand, but he is no leader. Were he to incite a rebellion against us, he would spend as much time fighting his own allies as he would engaging our flights. Farak is a warmonger and a zealot, and I do not think it wise to underestimate him, Neltharion said. You do not know him as I do. Alexstrasza paused, considering her next words. Farak loved one thing, and one thing alone, fighting. He was an unmatched combatant in the air and on the ground. He had taught Alexstrasza how to hunt and do battle. In recent centuries, however, the thrill of the fight had consumed Farak, which was no doubt why he called for rebellion against order magic. Yet I see the wisdom in your words, she continued. Farak was like a brother to me, but his actions have set him apart. He is different now, changed. Malagos inclined his head. In more ways than one, it seems. Have you heard the rumors? It is said that Farak has been imbued with elemental energies. How did he do this? None can be sure. Were they granted by a stronger ally drawn from the elemental plane? He claims his power is rivaled that of the aspects. Primal dragons flock to his side. My scouts have said as much, Alexstrasza said. They tell me Farak has grown in size and strength, that living flames now dance across his scales. Still, I do not fear my cousin. He would decimate his own forces over a perceived insult. He may draw primal dragons to his cause with fiery words and impassioned spirits, but his reckless ways and impulsive nature will fail to keep them. While that may be true, I do not want to ignore the threats he poses, Malagos said. If we discount Farak and his rabble-rousing, he may do irreparable harm to our flights. What would happen if he were to convince other primal dragons to draw on the elements as he has done? We have no authority over Farak, Alexstrasza said. What would you have me do, slay him, my own kin? That is not a course I am willing to entertain. Malagos opened his mouth to respond, but Neltharion interrupted the blue aspect with a deep, quaking rumbling in his chest. It is not Farak that concerns me, the Earthwarder said, his voice no more than a murmur, but a Ridicron. The name Iridocron fell like a stone weight across the room, sending vibrations through the floor. Alexstrasza sensed the other aspect's shock. Even Nor's Dormu, who looked as composed and stoic as ever, shuddered at the thought. Ysera whipped her tail agitated. Malagos blinked, his shimmering runes flickering for a moment. Reclusive and withdrawn, Alexstrasza had never even seen a Ridicron. The stone-scaled tended to keep his den in Harrow's Deep, far to the north in Kalimdor, but she knew he was nearly Neltharion's equal in strategy, cunning, and strength. Neltharion and Iridocron had long been rivals. Iridocron's tactical skill and considerable resources, along with Farak's impetuosity, would indeed be a concern. Malagos frowned, turning to Neltharion. You did not tell me Farak was pursuing Iridocron's support. No, I had word only this morning, Neltharion replied. If Iridocron allies with Farak, they will stir the winds of war. I cannot believe they would take things this far, Alexstrasza replied, shaking her head. Dragons should not fight dragons. Our detractors do not see us as dragons, but as keepers conscripts, Neltharion replied. They would raze Valdrakken to the ground, given the opportunity. Agree with Tyr, we should bolster our numbers. Every egg we claim from the wilds now is one less enemy we face in the future, and one more ally by our side. This is madness, Alexstrasza said, but she could sense the depths of the Earthwarder's concern. Do you support this plan, Malagos? The blue aspect hesitated. Support is a strong word, my queen, but Notharion's reason is sound. If Iridocron the Stone-Scaled decides to join with Farak and marshal the primal dragons, we will struggle to defend the Broodlands with our current numbers. Alexstrasza shook her head. I refuse to believe that Dragonkind will be led to the brink of war over a difference of opinion. Is it a difference of opinion, Neltharion asked, or a fight for our respective ways of life, for our bloodlines? Not everyone has chosen to join us in this endeavor, and more than a few have sworn to stand against us. Their ranks will swell just as ours continue to do. Alexstrasza released a soul-deep sigh. She trusted Neltharion's dedication to the cause more than any other, save perhaps Ysera. His flight had been charged with the protection of the broodlands, so it came as no surprise that he would be more agreeable to Tyr's admonition. Malygos too, for he and Neltharion were often of like minds. It is prudent to prepare for all eventualities, Malygos said. Would you not agree, Norsdomu? The bronze aspect harumphed, giving both his wings a precise shake and sending bronze sands scattering across the floor. I would not agree. This course of action may provoke the very conflict you wish to avoid. Which means, Neltharion asked, lifting a brow. It's impossible to say with any certainty, Norsdormu replied. I see 1,000 futures before our flights, but I cannot tell you which way the sands of time will flow. Taking primal dragon eggs from the wilds may be a boon to our flights. It may also be a choice that ends them. The High Father's gift has made you frustratingly cryptic, my friend, Malygos said, but he smirked at the bronze dragon aspect. Norsdormu gave him an elegant shrug in reply. And what of you, sister? Alexstrasza said, turning to Ysera. You have been unusually quiet throughout this council, Ysera. Ysera, knowing the full extent of Alexstrasza's gift, exuded love and compassion for her sister and for all dragonkind. Empathy, too, given the weight of the decision they faced. Ysera tilted her head, considering Alexstrasza for a long moment. I stand with Norsdormu on this matter. All things must grow in their own way, and in their own time. I cannot condone the disruption of life's natural cycle, even if order magic allows for a greater expression of its flows. Then it seems we are at an impasse, Alexstrasza said, feeling the burden of her mantle. She had expected the role of Dragon Queen to be difficult, but she had not expected to have her deeply cherished principles at odds with the needs of the dragonflights. How could she make such a decision? How could she, a mother herself, take precious eggs only to infuse them with order magic? It was inconceivable. Even if eggs were abandoned and without protection in the wilds, for that was a condition to which she had agreed with Tyr. And yet Neltharion and Malygos were right. Tyr had given them no choice. What would happen if the aspects defied the will of the keepers? Would they be deprived of the blessings that had transformed their lives, forced to return to the unenlightened existences they had known before? Or would their lights be snuffed out entirely, like gnats before the might of the gods? Alexstrasza looked out at the dragons who filled the skies above Valdrakken. Their joy was so perfect, so pure, the hearts of each burned like a star, so it seemed to her as though galaxies circled through the seat in hues of red, green, bronze, black, and blue. She was Dragon Queen, yes, but who was she to risk the health and happiness of the dragons who had chosen to follow her towards a new horizon? How could she place her own morality above their well-being? The individual could not come before the collective, not even when that individual was queen. No, Alexstrasza would not risk turning the keepers against him, especially with Farak raising a rebellion against the broodlands. Were that terrible future to come to pass, the aspects would need every ally they could call upon. I see great wisdom on both sides of this matter, Alexstrasza said, turning her attention back to the aspects. While I personally may object to collecting primal dragon eggs from the wild, we cannot risk losing the support of Tyr and the other keepers. Were we to deviate too far from their guidance, we cannot know if they would revoke our ordering. Neltharion curled his lips at the idea, but said nothing. Furthermore, Alexstrasza said, looking to her sister, you and I both know the survival rate of primal dragon eggs in the wilds is abysmally low. Only 1 in 4 whelplings might make it to drakehood there. Half the survivors might make it to 500 years or even 1,000. We must think of the lives we will save. Those eggs will be better protected in the broodlands. More whelplings will make it to adulthood under the care of the red dragonflight, and our augmented numbers will better defend the world we all love so well. Alexstrasza paused. No one spoke. Therefore, Alexstrasza said, still unsure if the words she spoke were the right ones, and pushing the promise she had made to Viranoth to the back of her mind, I sanction the Titan Forge to collect primal dragon eggs they find unguarded in the wilds. Neltharion and Malygos shared a satisfied look, while Norsdormu simply dipped his head in agreement. Ysera leaned closer to her sister, bumping Alexstrasza's shoulder with her snout. But no matter how hard Alexstrasza tried to justify the decision to herself, a shadow moved over her heart. Alexstrasza spent the rest of her day meeting with various members of her flight, inspecting progress at the Ruby Life Pools, and instructing a larger force of Red Draconid to care for the incoming eggs. Wherever she went, Neltharion's words haunted her. Our detractors do not see us as dragons, but as keepers' conscripts. They would raise Valdrakken to the ground given the opportunity. Viranoth's words rose in an answering cry. Swear to me that you will never force primal dragons to bow to the will of the keepers. Alexstrasza had sworn. How she regretted those words now. If Iranoth refused to understand something as simple as order magic, she would never empathize with the nuances of Alexstrasza's position. Not because Iranoth did not have the capacity to understand, but because her solution would be to forsake order magic and return dragonkind to its primal state. If only the answer could be so simple as Viranoth thought. As the sun sank towards the horizon, Alexstrasza took her leave from Valdrakken. She dived from the heights of the seat of the aspects, reveling in the thrill of the free fall. As the ground rushed towards her, she opened her wings and beat them once, rocketing forward. Alexstrasza loved the city, from its gleaming white towers to its glistening aqueducts. Valdrakken was fast becoming the broodland's bustling core. Watching its spires rise brought her so much joy. This place was a marvel, a wonder, unlike anything else on the face of Azeroth. It brought the five flights together in ways Alexstrasza had never imagined possible. Bronzes and blues hunted together with bronze sands and arcane magic. Reds and greens encouraged abundant flowering gardens to grow in the city's quiet, shaded places. And in the Black Dragonflight's enclave, a new oathstone was being prepared with the help of members of all five flights. Everywhere she looked, Alexstrasza saw unity, prosperity, compassion. If the five dragonflights could find a way to work together in harmony, they could find a path to peace with Farak and his followers too. Surely there was a way to avoid hostilities, Alexstrasza thought, sailing past the outskirts of Valdrakken. Surely we can find that path to peace. Alexstrasza flew to one of her favorite spots in the Broodlands, a small ledge on the border of the Emerald Plain and Waking Shores, where she could watch the sunset. She lounged on the warm rock, soaking up its heat. Two large red dragons circled overhead, keeping an ever-watchful eye on their queen. Below her, the sunset flooded the waking shore with gold light, setting the valley's pillars and arches of red stone aflame. The air smelled of sweet, dry grass, and the world teemed with life. Usually she could close her eyes and slip into the songs around her, the ancient trees shifting their boughs in the wind, or a hawk hunting the skies, but no, tonight her mind turned and her heart ached, realizing that the living world would wake to a different dawn, one in which Alexstrasza's decision had either secured or destroyed its peace. She was unsurprised to sense Ysera approaching on swift wings. I knew I would find you here, the green aspect said as she alighted on the ledge beside Alexstrasza, setting off little whirls of dust in her wake. How do you fare, dear one? Alexstrasza smiled. I sense concern in your heart, Ysera. Do not worry for me. I am quite all right. Are you? Ysera said, bumping her snout against Alexstrasza's shoulder. I am well enough, thank you. Well enough, Ysera said, but still brooding. Is it that obvious? You would be hard-pressed to hide your heart from me, Ysera said, stretching out beside Alexstrasza. Do not worry, sister. We made the right choice. Taking decisive action now may preserve more life than a war would take. The way we lived before the Keepers was a cruel existence with moments of wild, untamed beauty. Maybe this will encourage those who stand against us to envision a gentler future with us. Perhaps the whelps we save will even help us to build bridges between us and our primal kin. That is what I tell myself, Alexstrasza replied. Yet my doubts persist. I must admit, I knew taking the mantle of Dragon Queen would be difficult, but I never expected to make a choice like this. Let your doubts go, sister, Ysera said, leaning into Alexstrasza's side. Your compassion is boundless. That is why the Keepers made you queen. You are our beacon, our waypoint, the best of us. I know it is easier said than done, but you do not bear the burden of leadership alone. The aspects will stand with you. I stand with you. I know, and I thank you for it. Alexstrasza leaned back against her sister. How grateful she was for Ysera's support. The path they forged together was new, and Alexstrasza was unaccustomed to the heaviness of leadership. With time, she would adjust to the pressures of her role, but for now, all she felt was the weight of others' expectations, tears in particular. Ysera let out a yawn. Her fangs glistened in the dying light. The sisters watched the sun dip below the horizon in silence. As dust settled over the sky, the rocks purpled. Shadows pulled at the base of the canyon. Stars emerged, then hid their faces behind clouds that crept toward the broodlands. The wind stirred, and Alexstrasza smelled the wet earth and the sharp tang of lightning on her tongue. We should go, Alexstrasza said. The hour grows late, and you already have one foot in the dream. Yes, Ysera replied, her voice slow and hazy. Yes, I suppose we should. As the moons rose, Neltharion returned to the Obsidian Citadel. Or at least, he returned to the site that would eventually become the Obsidian Citadel. For now, his flight excavated the mountainside, tapped volcanic vents, and shaped stone from the lower levels. One day it would be a bastion of the Birdland's western flank, providing protection from their foes in the west. Alexstrasza was not unwise, but she underestimated Eridicron's deep-seated distrust of the Keepers and everything they touched. While Notherian had the utmost faith in the Dragon Queen's diplomacy, even she would struggle to soften the stone-scaled heart of Eridicron. If peace failed and Eridicron brought war to the Broodlands, Neltharion intended to be ready. The Earth Warder would, however, need to make its preparations with care, avoiding both Eridicron's suspicion and the Dragon Queen's ire. He summoned two of his most trusted Scalecrafters to his side, Umbrinian, principal architect of the Obsidian Citadel, and Calcia, leader of the Scalesmiths. Together they descended into the large natural cavern that lay below the citadel and stretched for hundreds of wing lengths under the Broodlands. The temperature rose and the air smelled sulphurous. Lava poured from the cracks in the stone, illuminating the cavern with dim red light. It ran like a red river through the cavern's center, then split in two around a wedge-shaped stone cliff. Misty light emanated from the pockets of the cave, emitted by a huge aquamarine crystal and phosphorescent fungi. Neltharion paused on a ledge overlooking the space. Now that the citadel is underway, Umbrinian, I want your engineers to turn their attention to the lower caverns. Of course, my aspect, Umbrinian replied. What would you have me do here? I want armories, workshops, and additional forges, Neltharion said, pointing to the west, north, and south. We will need training grounds for the Draconid as well. However, I want you to save Zarelek Cavern for me. Might I ask why we need to expand the lower caverns already? Calcia inquired, stepping forward to survey the space. Is the citadel not enough to protect the Broodland's western flank, my aspect? The citadel is sufficient for now, yes, Neltharion replied, but we must prepare for an uncertain future with unknowable threats. Survey and map the cavern in advance of our next meeting with the flight leaders. We will decide how to allocate our resources to construction efforts then. Umbrinian bobbed his head. It shall be done. One final consideration, Neltharion said as he turned. One final consideration, Neltharion said as he turned. This place will be for our flight alone. Tell no one of it. Not even the other aspects. Am I understood? Yes, Umbrinian and Calcia said in unison. Good, Neltharion replied. See to it. As Neltharion went to leave the cavern, a wordless hiss rose in the back of his mind. He paused, looked over his shoulder, but no one followed him. Umbrinian and Calcia stood several wing lengths back, discussing directives and making plans. So then, who? Is everything all right, my aspect? Calcia asked, shifting her attention back to him. Neltharion gave her a firm nod. Quite, he said, though it was not the first time he had heard such a strange, disembodied whisper while underground. Carry on, he said, then hurried from the cavern without another word.